Here we go.
All right.
Real life.
Who wants to do the intro?
Welcome to IoT Coffee Talk, live from Bellevue, Washington. We're here for the Lenovo Tech event.
Tech World 2024.
For the whole world. And you might be surprised to know it's like the who's who of people are speaking at this event. I don't know. You know, did they give them all free ThinkPads?
Yeah, free ThinkPads.
Free ThinkPads.
Well, I know that Sock was not coming in until he saw Rob Tiffany was on deck. And
That's
he's
right.
like, on my way.
Yeah. Zuck is here. We're going to hang out, you know, which we always do. I usually go down to his place. And then, who else we have? My Satya. Just going to drive over from
Jensen.
Red.
Pat Gelsinger. Jensen. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Pat.
Yeah, we have Lisa.
Lisa.
Soups.
Yeah.
No Elon, though.
No Elon.
No shit.
No.
No
He's
Elon.
catching rockets with
He's
with
catching
hands.
rockets.
Yeah.
His teeth.
Yes. Like this.
With his chopsticks.
You know, did I see like on our little communications mechanism that we have here on LinkedIn that we talk to each other? It's like a little chat thing, and I think our friend Mark posted something that was like from Europe. It's like America catching a rocket in Europe. It was like some new regulation on a plastic container for drinking water. That's what we're doing in Europe. I apologize, all my European friends, but yeah, that's a lot of regulation there. Yeah, remember, regulation is not innovation. We just lost half our audience.
That's true.
That's okay. There's always a risk of that every time we go on the air anyway, right?
That's true.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, guaranteed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes reality and the truth hurts, right?
It does.
So
Like what truth hurt tonight.
we're trying to deal out a lot of pain.
We were having dinner tonight at an unnamed steakhouse, and Leonard's steak was tough.
It was tough.
Had to
They
send
didn't
it
even
back.
take the laces out.
Yeah.
They didn't take
Yeah,
the
they
laces
didn't take
out.
places out.
And so the truth hurt. He had to send it back, and luckily he wasn't one of those so polite people who's like, "Oh, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, so I'll just eat this horrible thing."
Yeah.
And so he sent it back, and what happened? He got a good fillet, and then we all got a free dessert.
See?
Yes.
There's a benefit
There's a-
to
yes.
the truth.
It was a
right?
good
It pays
customer
off at the
experience.
end.
Terrible in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Lessons learned. You don't eat the chewy prime rib. You send it back,
Send it back.
and then you get free
You
dessert.
got free dessert. So
There you go.
There you go. So that all worked out well. So what are we doing here? It's IoT, right? You remember IoT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is a variety of IoT that enabled Elon Musk to capture that gigantic rocket booster with that little chopstick thing. And it did like a really weird maneuver. Did you see that? I thought it was going to crash into
It would have
the...
been wild if it just crashed into the tower and it went down. And there's people below like, oh my God, yeah. You know, all of the humanity. Yeah, that would have been horrible. Lots of gyros, probably a lot of chips. You know, we complain about how like there's hundreds of computer chips in our cars now, but there's a lot more chips in that rocket, figuring stuff out every millisecond.
Real time.
And it blows you away because you look at it, it just looks like a tube. Like you didn't see fins or other things on it to help it guide it around. It just was like, I'm going to make this tube do whatever I need it to do. That's pretty impressive.
I think he just had a bunch of magnets.
Oh,
To be
it's
honest.
magnets?
Yeah,
Very
very-
strong,
just
man.
very strong magnets.
Oh, my
You know, like
goodness.
with a tightly one coil, it's
Yeah.
his magnets.
Okay, magnets.
Yeah. Go Elon
Could
and
be
his
the
magnets.
case. That could be like the trains.
Yes.
Maglev,
Maglev, baby.
Maglev.
Yeah.
Loving
Stole that idea from Japan, too.
There you go. Whatever
Yeah.
it takes.
Well, that was a great dinner conversation. Like a couple of things that we touched on.
You know?
There's that bit, right, where oddly, the most money, most energy, and attention go into things that are really not that important. I mean, they're on the what's that Maslow scale of
Hierarchy of needs.
hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
It's like the stuff that's like
Yeah.
really not that important.
It's stuff that's important to just a handful
Yeah.
of people. Or
Things
you're
that are
right. You
essential.
get to the top of the pyramid. It's fewer and fewer people.
Yeah.
It might, and we always talk about go up the stack. And when higher stack things are more valuable than the stuff down here that's just plumbing. Who cares?
Yeah.
But yeah, the plumbing is kind of important.
Yeah. Well, if
Yeah.
you can't eat,
Can't have the stack without L2, L3.
Exactly.
There
That's
you
what I
go.
always say.
exactly.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have intelligence without having the sensors to provide you with the data,
Need the
provide
plumbing.
context, and
And if you didn't have L2 or L3 cache, you might have some cache misses.
Yeah.
So there's that.
But it's also the cattle farmer analogy, right? At the bottom, taking all of the risk,
All the risk.
with someone above the stack
Yes.
taking all of the margins
Yes.
and the marketing.
So they take all the risk, the investment, the land, the cattle, the fee, and all that stuff, and then stuff, and then it just gets whittled down in the
Yeah.
supply chain.
Yeah.
Yes, you're probably wondering why are we talking about that, but you see who's taking risk, who's making the most money.
Now these days, though, the cool thing is there is a flattening. In many cases, a lot of these markets are flattening out, so that people are getting more direct connections with people that are actually buying and using the products. So
That's smart.
you can sort of work around some of these old school supply chain issues.
I think.
Although a lot of these markets, like highly regulated markets, things like we're talking about farming there.
Yeah. But they can do some of that,
You can do some of it.
and I think maybe it's a matter of getting some savvy marketers
Right.
from other industries who are really good. Go talk to those folks because they're probably not thinking about
But
it.
there's now platforms to reach consumers directly. with
Yeah.
These products too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be really good to hear from the audience. So it's up to our calculations. It's almost 30% more than the population of Earth because every human watches us.
Every
And then
human.
there's a bunch of bots. But jokes aside,
Yeah.
what are the things that you folks are going direct to producer, not direct to consumer, but the other way around?
Oh,
Are you buying, do you go to the farmer's market to buy eggs and produce?
Yeah.
Do you reach out to a cattle farmer
Yeah.
via Instagram or TikTok or
Yeah.
Snapchat or whatever and buy half a cow for your
Right.
family
There you go.
because you might have 9 refrigerators
Because I
like
do-
a friend of ours.
Yeah, I do see a lot of ranchers on Slack.
Gotta do it,
I
man.
just bought some. I just bought some ramen. Direct.
That is true.
A
Okay.
big case of ramen.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
It's
that was a
one of those
mistake.
Michelin
Big
star
That's a
ramen
mistake.
from
But I
Japan.
bought it direct.
Okay,
Okay.
No
well,
middleman.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So now I have no way to return it.
You bought that on Instagram?
I did.
I remember when I first started buying things on Instagram, I was like, this is kind of cool. And then there's stuff on TikTok that you can buy,
Sure.
It's
It shows up like 1/4 of the size of the thing. It's like, oh, that's the vacuum cleaner.
it's almost like Zoo It. You need a school for ants.
oh, man. It is that time.
But you know what? I know this is unrelated to IoT, but you're right. You're talking about the rancher, and there's a well-known, well, if you're in Texas, steakhouse outside of Abilene, Texas, in Buffalo Gap called Perini Steakhouse, and but it started because the guy Perini was a rancher, cattle rancher, and in the '80s it was getting pretty tough. They weren't making enough money, which is what farmers deal with all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And so one of his buddies goes, maybe you should get out of the raising cattle and start selling steaks instead. And so he did it, and it turned on the dime. Now he's killing it.
He went up the stack.
He went up the stack.
We're not-
So there's lots of stacks out there.
Well, actually, this has a lot to do with IoT because, if you look at the IoT, I hate to use the term industry because it really isn't an industry. If you look at it like IoT as a market, it faces the same problem, right? People who try to sell connectivity, try to sell the sensors, the
Yeah.
gadgets.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Because it's
they face that
it's a
commoditization.
bunch of enabling technologies that you put
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, people
but
go
we
up the
could-
stack and sell the solution. They take
Right.
the margin.
Right.
Right, everyone gets paid the component parts.
Who's making the most money in IoT?
System integrators.
I knew that was the answer.
Top of the stack.
Yep, the consultants are making all
People
the
that
money.
stitch it together and make it work.
Yes, not the people who actually made the stuff.
No.
Not the power. Oh, yeah.
It's the
Yeah, well,
consultants.
yeah.
So you look at
Well,
that's why semiconductor companies are all getting in the software business
Yeah,
and the models in business.
right.
They're trying to provide more software value
Right.
and trying to.
But that's also turning out a little bit awkward, Because if you look at, like, for instance, what NVIDIA is doing, I don't think there's a lot of ecosystem players that are and partners who are entirely comfortable with what they're saying.
Oh yeah. Well, NVIDIA's
mean-
doing the whole thing, like they're doing the
Yeah.
racks,
I mean, they're
cooling,
they're basically sucking all the oxygen out of the room,
and
right?
all the software infrastructure and the tools and CUDA and everything.
Yes.
All the frameworks.
As it turns out, though, a lot of people realize this, and that's why most people don't take our advice here. As it turns out, most people are long NVIDIA in the stock market. Like, I saw that on CNBC. They're like, percentage of people who are long NVIDIA stock. It's crazy. Eggs in the basket.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're all like, yeah, do the whole thing.
I'm long on Broadcom. It will come back.
It will come back one day. Oh my gosh. But yes, it is awkward when consultants come in. Like when I was working at Initech in Dallas and they brought in the Bobs, you know, who were they're like efficiency experts. It turns out you're actually interviewing for your own job. Yeah, it was just like, you know, it's like, what is it you say you do? I'm a people person. I get the
Oh my
specs from the
God,
customer,
so
and
funny.
they get the goddamn software guys.
Greatest movie ever.
It is. I saw that on the plane the other day. I just saw it. I was like, I'm going to watch it again. And, you know, my wife has a thing about that movie, Office Space. She hates it when I watch it because it causes me to not want to go to work anymore.
Just go to work, grab your stapler, go to
Smash
work.
the printer, you know.
Yeah, smash the printer, you know? It's like, wow. Noticed you've been missing a lot of work. I wouldn't say I'd be missing it, Bob. Michael Bolton? Anyway, you must love him. Wow. This is really going nowhere, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we can bring it back to the whole thing of, you know, we can talk about all the value at the top of the stack and all the margins being taken by a system integrator. But at the end of the day, if the system integrator community is the one that's talking about a business problem that a business is trying to solve, and they're not talking about text and bits and SOC and system on chip and modules on silicon and SIMs, then it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, because you know, you have as a system integrator, you have the luxury, and we talked about this at dinner, of being in a niche market where I do this one thing very, very well. I'm an expert in this type of thing, and I do this very, very well. And now, as a business owner, you're having a business and a solution discussion with another expert. You're not going into components and parts and subscriptions. You're having an ROI discussion. And so, you know, in a way, you know, I think system integrators that are good, then you know they're worth every penny. And I think for you know the rest below the stack, just you know the question is, how do we that are commoditized almost? How do we serve this community better? What are the things that if we are tapped into the experts, I can make some innovation at the hardware level, at the kernel level, the software level that will make an integrator say, you know what, for this solution, this is the best box.
Yeah.
Right? So, but these conversations are not happening. Why? Back to direct to consumer, right? I'm selling connectivity and I want to own the whole thing. I want to own the customer. But, you know, in reality, I'm a middleman.
Well, you know, that was an interesting thing about our discussions at IoT Stars in Austin last week. Because we brought it up on IoT Coffee Talk before, is the identity crisis that a lot of IoT players face. They don't know who their customer is. Oddly, right? You think that they would, but there's like sort of this schizophrenia that a lot of suffer where, you know, like for instance, one of the questions I asked, I was moderating a panel and I asked the audience, so what are you? Are you a data company or a device company, connectivity? And then, you know, actually it was funny. There's probably like 120 people at the, in the audience, and probably I would say about 12 people raised their hand for any of these things, right? And by the way, 2 platform companies that I was going to say, hey, you know, obviously you guys don't watch IoT Coffee Talk, right? But I didn't want to be mean.
Yeah.
And I was within like, you know.
Right. But after this episode, they'll be glad they were watching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But this is identity crisis. And oddly, people have trouble figuring out, well, who are my customers?
Right.
It's really weird.
Right.
Still.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of companies decide we do the whole thing. We got the whole stack.
The thing is, sometimes we because here's the thing. If we were to grab something, a simple example, say we're going to grab a router that has Ethernet out,
Okay.
and we have a private IP scheme and some protection, cybersecurity, whatever. Then we would argue that we have a box that can connect your Ethernet IP thingy to the internet.
Yes.
And leave it at that. Now, there's a bunch of holes in this thing, but this is why we don't know who the customer is. Because my addressable market is, raise your hand if you have an Ethernet port.
Yeah. There you go.
Right?
And as you learn from the TV show Silicon Valley, it's important to have a box.
Yes.
You have a box.
Do you have a box?
Yeah. And
Yes.
so you check that checkbox.
Yeah.
The TAM for having a box.
Yeah.
Trillions.
Just remember
With
that.
an Ethernet port on it.
What is it? Total addressable market does not equal obtainable market.
No. No.
It's really based
Serviceable
on
market.
some ridiculous
Song.
forecast.
Yes. Yes.
TAM, Sam, Song.
Song, yeah.
Song, Blue. No, you're probably not into Neil Diamond like that.
No, sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
All right.
I have nothing on Mr. Diamond.
Okay.
No offense.
He's my guy.
Oh, it's cool.
All right. All right.
So, I mean, that was a pretty good event. What did you think?
IoT Stars?
Yeah, IoT
I
Stars.
thought it was great. I thought it was great to get everybody together. It was Steve Ray Vaughan's old house.
The
The drinks, were good.
There's the riff.
Yeah.
It's good.
There's your bad karaoke for
Yeah, Mr.
the
Vaughn
episode.
just rolled in his grave.
See,
I know,
I could
going,
do
oh
air
my God.
guitar and make the sounds, So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been great if the mics worked.
Yeah,
it's really weird,
ironically,
though.
a bit of a tech failure on
Oh
it.
no!
It'd be great if this mic is picking us up. No, you know what?
Oh,
It'd be
it's
funny.
probably not even
I hope
You'll
we're
freak out.
recording
I
right now.
hope so. I hope so.
It has happened.
Yeah. Do you remember
sure.
older phones or older cameras when people still use digital cameras when they're recording, and it would just stop on its own after 30 minutes or something like that?
Yeah.
You didn't know, right?
Well, we missed those mini DV camcorders. Yeah.
Love that. I need
These things were, you know what?
I8.
I had one of the first ones.
Really?
Yeah, it was 1997,
Yeah.
and I was in Tokyo, and they just came out with the Sony. I think it was like the PS1 or
Okay.
With a
Whatever, that was the
proprietary
first
memory stick
hand.
that would only work on other Sony peripherals.
And what was that called?
In 97?
Not memory stick,
Sony
but
had their-
battery
Yeah,
pack.
they have their own memory stick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But those things recorded on a DV cassette.
yeah,
Yeah.
DV cassette,
Right.
not stick.
Not
See,
stick.
you were a
Right.
child.
I had both. When we made it to memory sticks, Sony had their own thing.
Sony was
Oh, yeah, yeah.
trying to make
Which was
things
really super annoying. Initially, it was for the photos,
Yeah, for their cameras.
right? For the cameras.
Yeah.
And then they combined that with the DV stuff, and you had a stick for capturing the
You can take a
cameras, which was
low-res
super.
photo
Yeah,
or EV.
yeah, yeah,
But no, those are cool.
yeah. So I had, and then I took it with me on a tour of Europe,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think I was one of the first vloggers ever because nobody had those. They never had. They
Is that
didn't
like
have
a
them. They
vlogger?
just came out
Yeah.
in Japan. That was back in the
You were
day
ahead- you
when
were ahead
Japan
of the
had
game.
everything, right?
Vloggers.
Yeah,
Okay.
vloggers.
Right. Checking. All right. That's pretty impressive. You were ahead of the game.
But yeah,
Yeah.
He's
you
ahead
know
of
how
the
weird
curve,
people
ahead of the
thought I
curve.
was talking to myself in
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah.
a tiny little camera that you can just flip around
Yeah,
like
remember,
that
you
and
flip the
have
screen
like,
around.
Yeah.
Right. And you're out there walking around in Europe talking to yourself
yeah,
and
and they go, oh
everything.
my god, what
Original
is this idiot
selfies.
doing?
You're like, it must be a tourist, Oh my gosh. Wow. The vlogger. I love that.
So I thought the embedded world last week, I was going to say IoT Stars probably was one of the highlights. I think the show itself was a little thin.
Mm,
I think I was
Yeah.
saying the venue was a little too big for the show. I think the show was probably pretty good at that in a smaller space.
Yeah, but yeah,
She's a little too spread out. It's a little too.
yeah.
I don't know what to compare it to. I've never been to the one in Germany.
Well, the one in Germany, Nuremberg, is massive.
Okay.
It's packed.
All right.
Yeah. And so we had a you know, an interesting discussion about why the Germans seem to care about embedded stuff and devices and actual like
Okay.
industrial tech, and
They
why
have
we
massive
in the
trade
U.
shows.
Huh?
They have massive trade shows.
Yeah.
Electronica,
too.
Yeah,
Jennifer Messe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
CeBIT, you know.
CeBIT,
Yeah.
right.
But how come we can't have it?
People just don't
Except
care.
for CES.
And what did we
CES
have
is pretty
before CES? Wait for it.
Comdex.
Comdex. There we go. Ding, ding, ding.
Comdex.
Yes, we had to have someone who was born before the 21st century.
Yeah.
I heard there's a show going on in Dubai right now, the Gen something.
Yes.
It's like 200,000 people.
No way. Wow.
I mean, that's like Mobile World Congress when it mattered.
Yeah.
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 And then there was a semicon in India recently that was like 200,000-300,000 people.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So I don't know what's going on. I mean, not in the U.S., but
Yeah,
There's
So
a
we
lot
need to
of-
relocate the IoT Coffee Talk team to Dubai and have nobody up there.
Yeah, that or Abu Dhabi.
We'll get a screen on top of the neon glass wall thing that they're building.
Oh yeah.
That should be our stage.
Yeah, that's where we belong. Up
Yeah.
there, big time.
So we could
Big time.
look down at the commodity players from up top of our vantage point.
Yeah, you know, Tom Cruise is kind of going up the side.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
lot-
so
a lot
the show was good, but it was just a little thing.
A little thin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a, you know, like it's about the size of sensors converge. So if you ever been there, so I mean maybe that's
It's like
about
single thousands.
Single thousands, that's small. And yet I go to this stuff in Houston, these energy conferences in oil and gas, and the biggest one maybe is lucky if they have 1,000 people. Well, there's other ones that are more niche and they're like 200 people. And I have discussions with people putting it on. Like,
Well, yeah, I think the boutique shows, I mean, it can be very valuable. You know,
it's like, how do you make money?
concentrated on, you know, yeah.
I don't know how they make money. Obviously, they find a way.
It is. Well, you don't hold it in a convention center.
No, you're right. It's definitely a smaller venue, and I guess the sponsors, whatever. I remember going to some that were like total. I mean, there's a lot of pay-to-play events, sure, but I've been to some that were just like so blatantly, you know, it's like they found a way to make sure that no one had to pay to go to this thing. They flew you to if you were a guest or if you're a speaker or if you were whatever, and then they'd have, you know, but if you want to speak though, you're paying money to speak, right? You know, you're sponsored to speak, and then they do that little speed dating thing with the people who are there to learn about your stuff.
It's really expensive, especially if you want a really nice padded carpet for the booth. That makes or
Yeah.
break your budget. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Added carpet.
Yeah.
And carpet's what it's all about.
Yeah. The more padding, the more padding.
So, Mobile World Congress Las Vegas happened as well, right? I mean, there was like a ton of stuff that's happened in the
Yeah, it was
past
super
week.
busy.
Yeah.
Really, really crazy.
I haven't heard back from really much of anybody about
Yeah,
Global World Congress. Yeah,
I
it's
heard
worthwhile.
it's pretty light.
Pretty light.
Maybe 4,000 people,
That's really light.
8,000
Yikes.
last year. And then apparently the most populous part of the convention center was the whole dining area, you know, like the
The
Oh, yeah.
hangout, the
Yeah,
cafeteria.
the cafeteria. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where everybody has
Yeah.
all their meetings. It's out
I
there.
thought you were going to say the kind of resume writing workshop.
oh, that's mean.
Ouch.
That's
Yeah.
really mean.
But true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
So-
Are you hiring? Are you hiring? Are you hiring?
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah.
Are you hiring?
It's like speed dating tables, you know. It's like,
Right.
so next year we might see people like, you know, come in with little flags, you know, with their corporate logo,
Yeah.
and then, you know, stake a claim on the table, and then have their meetings there.
Might as well. So, what do you think about, you know, we've been to MWC America many times in Los Angeles,
Oh yeah,
and then more recently in Vegas. What do you think was better?
oh
I mean, I think
Yeah.
Vegas is nicer
Yeah.
than the old convention center in downtown LA,
Yeah.
but I wonder, is there as many people, or is it maybe just
a
different
lot
time?
less.
Yeah.
lot less. I mean, I think it's basically getting. I don't want to say it's dying,
Yeah.
but it's
Well,
not looking good. It
Well, I
looks
think
like
we just talked about this too. It's
declining.
like this kind of wave of investment and optimism around telco as a digital transformation thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just a lot of like tension going on and a lot of concerns about, return on investment.
Yeah.
So there's less people engaged in the industry.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's going to turn up in these trade shows.
Right.
Yeah, but it is a little bit disturbing though, because we're so disillusioned about telco and telco tech, and but we have to be concerned that China is not experiencing the same thing, and they're running away with the technology, they're running away with the value, just simply because I think just having tracked what the Chinese operators as well as vendors have done and what their strategy has been, it's been better. And I know for a fact it's simply because they asked really tough questions. The mobile operator CTOs in China basically did their homework. Like when Huawei would come up and say, hey, millimeter wave and all this, and the Qualcomm people would come up and say that stuff. These guys say, show me in the lab. Let's test it out. Okay, lab in the field. Okay, show me the value. They did this homework in 2017, before
So we have
the hype really
China
started.
Unicom, China Mobile. I'm trying to think of all the players. Yeah.
China Telecom.
Yeah.
So,
And of course, they all do due diligence.
I don't know,
I'm
but
just trying
maybe
to
we
wonder
should
what-
too.
Well, I would hope
Also,
they
is
are.
the ecosystem there like a little more focused ecosystem around like snapping to certain standards and interoperability, whereas in European and U.S. markets, there's like kind of de facto standards, and then it's kind of a wild west.
I always gave most props to South Korea. I always felt like they were the furthest ahead of anybody. They embraced newer technologies. You had people in
KDDI.
Olympics.
they just
Right,
did
Olympics.
for years. They were always ahead of the game, and people say, "Oh, well, it's because it's smaller and it's like one big laboratory." But it was just amazing. They were on it before 5G. I just remember flashbacks to when we were rolling it out at Ericsson and going to the Bridge Alliance thing in Singapore, and Korea Telecom KT was there, and they're just like, we already got people on the subways in Seoul.
Yeah.
Going a zillion miles an hour, and they're watching live movies on 5G, and everybody else is like, "What's that? We don't even have that."
Could they download a movie in 12 seconds, Rob?
I don't know. I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, that was like the Winter Olympics, right? That was like their big test
True,
bed
yeah,
for
they did
5G.
Yeah,
And
and maybe it is easier to do it.
It is.
Smaller size where you can it's like a big laboratory where you can try things out. And
yeah,
push
and
the envelope.
I think that's where the U.S. operators, the CTOs here, you have to face it. They made some pretty bad bets.
Right.
There's no getting around it, right? And I think a lot of it has to do with just these false equivalencies that they subscribe to. So a lot of people saying, "Hey, look at South Korea was able to deploy 5G and service 80% of the population." It's like, well, have you ever been to South Korea?
Yeah, I was going to say the
Outside
density.
of-
Yeah,
Yeah,
very,
And
very
it's
different.
like it's not the same thing, and so you have to have a different, you have to have a different strategy for spectrum, for just your technical rollout, everything. It can't be the same thing. But using South Korea as a model, I think is and was the wrong thing to do.
Because people look at them as like a North Star or something.
Yeah,
to shoot
You
for.
could use South Korea as an example to deploy in New York City or in San Francisco or LAX. Just
Yeah.
but nationwide, right? To accelerate and propagate the promise of 5G in whatever way that you sold it, you have to really be thoughtful and can't use examples that are out of context of your reality,
Right.
and use that as a basis.
I mean,
of
surely
strategy
we
or
can
even
be
example.
millimeter away from Dallas all the way to San Antonio.
Oh,
right,
I'm
Rob?
sure. Yeah, I'm sure we can. How hard could that be?
Well, see, that's the one thing the South Koreans didn't learn that the Chinese knew, and the guys in Hong Kong, Singapore, we're going to go low band, mid band.
But that's what T-Mobile did.
No, they bought like a shit ton of.
I mean, but
Yeah.
but you're right. I know
They did. They originally had the 3-tiered cake.
yeah, the 3
Then
cake, and then
2 years ago they chopped off
the top, and everybody, it's like this millimeter wave was just a fantasy.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's just because walls got in the way, man.
glass gets
I
in
mean,
the way.
who put the glass there?
A little
Rain
fly, rain gets in the way.
And then the leaves in
The
the
leaves.
spring comes like it's
Oh.
really annoying. It's
So,
really annoying. Yes.
are you guys hearing any mobile operators talking about upgrading their kit to 5G advanced?
5G plus plus.
Or as Huawei calls it, 5.5G. But it's 5G advanced. It's part of the spec, that we're doing on, just like we had LTE advanced. So I have a theory.
Let us hear it.
They're not going to do it.
I was still waiting for what is it? 5G, standard.
But I would
release
say,
18.
but if I go back in time, you could make the case after all these years of 5G mess and disappointment, happiness here, disappointment there, whatever. I probably would have been just fine with LTE advanced. Because they made up all these things we're going to have, ultra reliable.
I get 5G plus. Yeah.
Oh, you get 5G plus, you must be with AT&T.
Yeah.
I think it's just the
It means
plus.
fake
Means,
5G.
not 5G.
It means not
4G. You get the 4G, son.
Yeah.
I love it.
5G.
Yeah.
4G.
Yeah.
Funky.
No, but I think people would have been well served with LTE advanced. So why don't we define what we think 6G should be right now?
It should be 5.5G or 5G advanced.
I think it should be 5G
Like
advanced.
that.
I think
And down the road.
I think there's bigger problems to solve for people, for customers, and these operators. Coverage being a big one. Backhaul networks is
Yep.
another one. I mean, I think that's right. So I was like, shit. Yeah.
For our friends in factories, it'd be really nice to get like a usable, a massive machine type communication, MMTC, that was in
Yeah, I remember
release
that one.
18.
Yeah.
And then what's the other one? Ultra reliable, low latency,
See.
right?
Yes.
And again, the specific case, because we're talking about a machine sending a command to another machine for something to happen. We're not talking about just moving bits and bytes. It's like we're actuating
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
Let's have those and be happy.
Yeah. Let's be happy.
Well, that the thing is
More
that in
towers.
the labs, these things work. The technology is there, right? The only problem for the past few years is that, especially with URLLC, it's just friggin' expensive in implementation deployment, right?
Well, there are no devices, so let's not.
Oh, they're sad.
Well, but the modules cost a ton. But they're always going to get cheaper.
Right.
But once they make the transition, operators make the transition to SA, they're going to do it because they will do it just simply because you're going to have more devices out there, especially smartphones. Not all this extraneous like MCAT, what is it?
The red cap.
Red cap stuff. Smartphones, the stuff that actually drives the bulk of the
Yeah, absolutely.
massive revenue. Being able to support 5G advanced features, right? So release 16 beyond type stuff,
Yeah.
right? Or 17 beyond even. But most of us don't even have the ability to tap into even the basic 5G. Everyone's like running off on top of or at least operators are
Right.
able to benefit. We can benefit, but the operators don't benefit from their 5G implementations because they're running
Not at all.
non-scan.
Hey, but we got RCS going now. So
Yes.
yeah, green bubble, blue bubble, dark blue bubble.
So I really
Oh,
screwed
yeah.
things up for everybody, our little group here, by using an Android phone for our chat. And but it should have kind of worked. Because if you'd all upgraded your iPhone to 18, you support RCS. And you and I were talking about it earlier. I've done text messages with iPhones that are updated, and the bubbles are different color, and they have more detail on the Android phone than they did before. And I probably look like a green, lower caste person to you guys.
I almost blocked you, man.
No, it's understandable. Yeah, absolutely. I would, gosh. But I go both ways. You know,
No,
sometimes on an iPhone, you know, that's eSound that I just bought back and forth, you know. I think there's things that I like about Android, or, you know, obviously this is a more premium Android device
Right,
than
yeah.
most people have.
Yes, that is not a low end, HTC.
But I love the HTC One back in the day.
That was
HTC.
Oh.
That was a good phone.
Yeah.
That was a good phone.
Yeah.
But I love the 200 megapixel camera sensor on this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is crazy.
It's nice.
You know, it's flashbacks to that our Windows phone that had the big old Nokia.
Okay.
That was the biggest deal ever. 1520 or
1420.
1420. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It was good stuff.
I had a flip phone, VGA, baby.
VGA, really? Love that. Love that. You moved up from 8-bit. That's nice.
Better than QVT.
So here's what 6G is going to be. It's just going to be 5.5. Or we'll just call it 5G advanced.
Geopolitically
I'm going to be
correct. Okay?
geopolitically correct. Okay, so 5G. All right, here's a question then. Maybe I don't know if we know the answer to this. If an operator upgrades their gear, whatever it is, to standalone, what is the upgrade path to advanced? Is it more hardware, or is there a software update, you think? Because I remember with Ericsson, when we were moving people from LTE to 5G, it turns out the talk track was, it's just a software update. We made sure that the LTE hardware that operators had within the last 3 or 4 years was software upgraded to 5G. The original 5G were connect to 4G, and then we scale you. And so I'm curious of the lift, the economic lift to advanced, and the manual labor.
It will be
lift.
6G as a service. If I cannot sell you any more kit, it's going to be a service for that upgrade.
It would be lovely.
Yes. A very expensive license.
That is the dilemma, right? It is the operators don't want to invest in new antennas,
Right.
RAN infrastructure, or at least minimize it. But you know what the crazy thing is we move toward like these software defined or vRAN type architectures. What the vendors are thinking is, hey, you're going to be upgrading your servers every 2 years. Think that's going to happen?
Mm-mm.
So it's weird. This whole IT CT convergence thing is actually IT mindset learning that CT is a different mindset, and then edge dynamics, edge economics are very different. Like as we know in the IoT, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people still don't realize this. If you go and you talk to folks in the industry, in the different silos, they're devoid of this understanding. It's pretty. I don't know. I don't think it's funny, but we're helping to bridge the awareness
If
divide
I was
here.
the CEO of a mobile operator and the kit maker was telling me every 2 years you're going to have to buy new hardware, I would say, get the hell out of my office.
You would do a less. What's his name?
Grossman.
Les Grossman.
Yeah.
We're not
cannot
going
we
to
cannot
do it
repeat
here.
that here.
but
Yeah, they would have
take
to
a step back.
And just go away. Don't come back.
Yeah. Hey,
What would Les Grossman do? I think that's how we should all operate
Yeah,
in our
what
lives.
would-
What would Les Grossman do? What would he say? right now? Exactly. Exactly. That's
Bring the BlackBerry back.
It's a guiding light for me, Absolutely. Okay. So, but that's the thing. If I have to upgrade hardware every year, then it better be like some old Packard Bell or Gateway computers or something. 486 is to do it, I don't know.
Well, that's so the interesting thing is how all this AI RAN stuff is going to play out.
AI RAN.
When Jensen and family
Yeah.
are suggesting that they're going to be on a 1-year cadence for all this AI supercomputing stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, what kind of cadence are they going to try to push down to, folks that are running quote unquote AI magic out at the edge,
Yeah.
right? Where, I mean, come on, it's, but that's the problem. It's people's mentality doesn't make the adjustment they need to make going from like these hyperscale clouds to these different edge environments,
Yeah.
right? That's
They
why,
have to show
like,
the value. They have to show the value.
by the way,
Yeah.
know this guy, because this guy, he's doing some crazy stuff. You're gonna find out soon about it. But
Soon about November 6th.
yeah,
November 6th.
yeah, it's that other force that is shaping the future of computing.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But your point on the AI RAN is that I think, and I'm not a super expert on this, but my understanding is that using AI for like packet switching and all that stuff versus, AI for like downtime, all that stuff, it just needs to show up at return on investment. And, then you'll see the cadence sort of take care of itself. And, the idea of like kind of swapping out these kit and these 5G base stations, and stuff, it would only make sense if it had economic.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Once that stuff's up and running,
I mean, I think, there were lots of good examples when we started virtualizing all this kit. Like, I think it was great for you to go into your cell tower and grab, I don't know, the baseband unit, this big Sony receiver-like box.
Yeah.
Because you had all these functions that had been virtualized in the network. And I think that we saw lots of improvements, lots of ROI. But that's sort of like we thought it was going to go gangbusters with, with this 5G thing, when it's like, no, like a ton of things got virtualized.
Yeah.
It's great. But now, the closest we got to this is VRAM.
Yeah.
Because ORAN wasn't that too much of an
Oh,
at the end of the day.
No, but man,
Fuck the
at the end of the day,
Oh.
ORAN is like, it's just friggin' interfaces, right? VRAN, you can already disaggregate. You can have a disaggregated architecture with proprietary interfaces that stitch your crap together, right? And it just astonishes me how a lot of folks in the industry just don't friggin' get that. And that it's not about multi-vendor and blah, blah, blah stuff. That's an agenda you created for yourself, your own convenience.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's an architectural and procurement decision by the operator. If they don't buy into the value proposition, open doesn't mean anything. And that's always been the case in IT, right? Like in the world that we come from.
We'll flip a table over right now.
But you know what? It's like, too bad. Thank God Mark is not here, because if I say this in front of him, he will crush me like I'm a tiny little child.
With his left hand. Like
He would slap me upside the head with his gigantic paws.
What are you gonna say?
No, people get religious about.
Yeah.
You just can't
Open
get
source,
religious
open
about
this.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate all you proprietary
No,
companies.
no. The reason why I always say that is because I had to deal with, I'm on these programs, large IT transformation programs, have to deal with all kinds of different tech folks coming from different backgrounds, whether it's Java. Oh, this guy has a Java background. This guy has, Oracle, SAP, blah, blah, blah. Then these dudes get like all religious about stuff. How does anything get done for the customer?
Oh, the customer.
You know what I'm saying? And then they forget about the customer. They just
do.
sit there and start,
I don't have to
yapping
worry about
about,
the customer.
this
I'm not
this
sales.
middleware is better, blah, blah. I was like,
Exactly.
look, no.
I'm all in with open source. And it's like, okay, well then go get in your open source car and then drive your open source car down the open source highway to your open source house.
Yeah. So I've always, I just learned through experience. Don't forget the customer,
Don't forget the customer. That's the big
And
takeaway.
the vendors do. And then their little minions, who oftentimes are your resources on a project, they forget, right? It's goofy. You guys have probably experienced that before. I'm just trying to tell some of the folks who haven't encountered that crap yet. Huh?
It's bad news when you forget who the customer
Oh, yeah, it happens. But then we all think that we're customer-centric, right? Oh, yeah, we're all customer-centric.
Customer
Obsessed.
every day.
Which most of the three mobile operators are the most customer obsessed in the United States? Which one would you say is number one?
Don't ask me. I'm going to talk wireless.
Straight talk wireless. There you go.
Boost mobile,
Boost
baby.
Mobile. Battling it out in cricket. Actually, yeah. Actually, I already know the answer to that question, but I won't say it. But it's real obvious. It's
Yeah.
come from nowhere and take over the whole deal based on marketing and customer obsession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about our technology's better, but oh well, I guess that didn't matter.
Well, just look at market caps right now. So,
Just look at market caps, and this is what I talk to people when I'm helping them in their wine business and vineyards and stuff like that. I go, it's not enough to make the best wine. It's not enough to make a great bottle of wine. That's not enough anymore. You're invisible. You've got to do more.
You have to tell a story.
You've got to tell a story. Just got to tell a story.
narrative.
It is.
Oh my God.
You just do.
Yeah.
You do. Because a lot of people make great wine. You can't build it and they will come anymore. You've got to tell that story. Drumbeat, marketing, narrative. Yep.
Yeah.
True that. Wow.
Hey, it's good to see you guys.
In real life.
Real life.
Make it
There's nothing like it.
Say 2 weeks in a row.
I know.
Look at you guys with your fancy watches. You got the Ultras.
I know. And by the way, the orange looks really good on you.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to tell you that.
It makes
It
his
looks
eyes
so
pop.
good on me for some reason.
Look, I went rogue.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Was that like a game?
It's like a
It's the
Samsung.
Samsung 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
I think it looks pretty cool.
It's cool.
Pretty.
Yeah.
What do you have there, David?
I have a mechanical
It's got a
watch.
real watch.
Oh, so when
That's
the EM
real.
comes, you'll still be good to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
You're pretty smart.
Yeah.
Big 30-hour reserve. 3-day, 4-day. I forget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rolex Oyster Perpetual.
Yes, we should call it. We should call it before this audience that is here in front of
Oh
us.
my God.
Yeah.
Thank you, all of you, for hanging out here in real life.
Yes.
You've made it to a very special end of another IoT Coffee Talk because we are in person. All 4 of us here. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. And remember, do not make financial decisions based on any information that we provide. Number
No
2,
way.
if you do make financial decisions and you strike it rich, please do not forget about elevatorkids.org. Everything we make
Slip
goes
that right
there,
in.
so just make sure you do that. And listen, if you want to have a no holds, we don't hold anything back here. We continue with this brand type of show. And we thank you for being here week after week. And like us, share us, tell your friends and the people that you don't like about IoT Coffee Talk. We'll see you next week, virtually or live. Peace out.
Peace out. Ring the bell.
Yeah.